Welcome to the Thicc Spooky Ghouls Podcast, where we discuss all things strange, paranormal, and unexplained.
These episodes are live recorded on Twitch and cut to fit Spotify's format. If you want to catch us live, we do our podcast once a month on Twitch.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome in. We've got the Thicc Spooky Ghouls, episode 31, happening today. And we've got the amazing Birdie helping us. Fortunately, Meso could not join us for the episode. She, let's send some healing towards her because she is currently not feeling great. She's not doing well. So we're sending her healing energy. And we have Birdie, who's going to help us cover. Birdie, she's been on a few episodes with us, and she is also one of the crew members. So I'm really excited to have her. And then we get to see Jester's. Well, we don't get to see Jester, but we get to hear Jester, who has a beautiful voice. And she is someone that I've known since I started streaming on Twitch. I absolutely adore her, and we have known each other the entire time. So it's really, really great to have her in the show. So I hope you guys have fun. I'm glad to see everyone. Let's go ahead and get into the Discord and start talking to Birdie and Jester. So let's go ahead and say hello to them. Hello. Good evening, ladies.
Hello.
Hi. I'm so excited to have you, Jester, and welcome back, Birdie. But Jester, we've known each other for so long, so it's really great to have you here. Thank you for agreeing to join us with this, and I hope you have a fun experience with us. And then Birdie, again, thank you for coming and helping us out. I know that it's rough, and I really appreciate you being there to back us up whenever we need it. So thank you for being a superstar.
Of course.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, I'm so excited to have you. Like, I randomly messaged you asking if you would be in the show, like just throwing it out there. And when you said yes, I don't think you understand the excitement I felt when you said yes. I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So I'm glad to see you, Jester. And then your model, of course, looks great. So Birdie, remember when, so Meso sent me my Christmas gifts, right? And when she sent me my Christmas gift, she sent me the makeup. And so as soon, I opened it, and as soon as I opened it, I think I opened it during the last episode. I was talking about how this looks like you, and then I'm looking at your model, and I'm just like, I have Birdie's. Yeah, so it's good to see you. And so like I said, this brand had I was like, that's Birdie. So me and Meso were so excited when we were like, oh yeah, that is Birdie. All right, let's go. Okay, sorry, the can. I have cans next to me that I need to empty my recycle box. I'm sorry, that made a bunch of noise. I'll try and edit it off stream. Okay, so hello, Gate. Welcome in. Hello, Jonathan. We're glad to see you. And hello, DJ. I'm glad to see you. Welcome back. Thank you for those biddies. Okay, and we gotta hydrate already? Jeez. I'm already
They gotta water their favorite streamer.
Yeah, DJ's been following me since the beginning of my career too, so hey. We have all our episodes available on Spotify and YouTube now. So actually we have the Ghoulish Bites coming out next week or this weekend on Saturday. But everything until then is already published if you guys want to check it out. Today we have 3 amazing topics that we're going to be talking about, and I'm going to be starting it off. And I'm talking about, you guys, if you couldn't tell, with my antennae and my cat shirt. I love this shirt. This shirt is ridiculous. I love it so much. But yes, I get to talk about aliens today, and you guys know I'm excited about aliens.
It's such a cute shirt.
I know, isn't it cute? I love it. It's like a cat, and it's got the cutest little face, and then it's got the little antenna, so I had to match a little antenna with it. I think my antenna also glows in the dark, so yeah. Congrats, DJ! I'm glad that she's here with you. All right. So, today, I get to talk about aliens. Are you two ready? Or did you want to say anything else before we get started? Do you guys have your hydrations?
Yeah, I have my liter of water next to me.
Lovely. So, today, I get to talk about one of my favorite alien abduction stories. And we're gonna have it's gonna sorry, I'm probably not gonna have we're gonna be talking about Alec Newald. Have either one of you guys ever heard of Alec Newald?
Nope.
Nope.
Birdie? I didn't
But
hear
it does sound familiar.
Nope, never.
Okay, so I'm excited to cover this because it is truly one of my favorite cases. And it's of all the cases, I feel like this one has a lot of very, very believable things going on with it. So I'm really excited to talk about it. So last month, I just wanted to remind you guys that this is going to come up probably later in the Ghoulish Bites, but last month we covered the hierarchy of angels, and now that's going to come back up in the Ghoulish Bites or at the end of my segment because of my theories that relate to all of this, right? Okay, so Alec Newald. All right, so Alec Newald is was someone in New Zealand. So they were in New Zealand. So this case happened in New Zealand, and this happened in 1989, February 1989. So let's get into it. So there was a man from New Zealand by the name of Alec Newald, and they decided to go on a trip, and they needed to drive from Rotorua to Auckland in the northern part of New Zealand. And he expected the trip to take like 3 hours. You know, GPS said 3 hours, like, well, not GPS, but like he expected, like, it was 1989. So whatever, he expected it to be about 3 hours of a drive. And so it was a straight shot from point A to point B. It was a straight shot. There was no crazy things going on the road. It's pretty like smooth sailing. And so when he arrived at his location, he felt unusually drained. He was very, very tired and very confused. And if you're wondering why he's confused, because it's crazy why he's confused, because he found out that he is a missing person. Yeah, he's a missing person.
Oh.
So people have been searching for him for about 10 days. So
Yeah.
imagine arriving somewhere and learning that you are a missing person's case. Apparently, the police have been investigating your case for about 10 days, and you were one of the more prolonged missing person cases. And back then, they would categorize a missing person in 3 different categories, whether it be like that to explain their disappearances, right? One is a traffic accident. So they assume that he's missing because he got into a car accident, and so they tried to find between where he was last seen to where he is at now, like to where he was supposed to go. They were trying to find him, and there was no accident reports of him or his vehicle. There was no presence of him or his vehicle, and it was like that for 10 days. Then so that would be like if you're a missing person because of an accident. The other one is you voluntarily like disappear. So basically, usually these people drain their bank accounts, leave everything behind, take off somewhere else, and start anew with a new identity. Usually, like people that just choose to disappear like that, or live in the woods and survive off of land, you know, or anything like that. So some people disappear voluntarily, and then others is murder suicide, so homicide, or is like someone that was kidnapped and then murdered. So those are like the 3 categories that they had for a missing person back then, and his case didn't meet any of the criteria for any of these from the time that they had, right? And so they did check out they investigated accident reports, any skid marks on the road that he was supposed to drive on, to see if there's any cars on the side of the road and all that stuff. So it's either and they couldn't find him, but there's also no evidence of him draining his account or having any activity on his account. And then there was no reason for him to be targeted. So if it was murder suicide, then, you know, so that was probably the maybe that they were thinking he was in that category, you know? He simply just vanished, and there had been no witnesses that claimed that they saw him for 10 days. Like I said, there was no camera, nothing picked up his existence anywhere. No one knew where he was at. So you see, Alec Newald was expected to arrive at his destination 3 hours away. And it was on a Monday that he took off on his trip, but for some reason he arrived on Thursday the week after. And Alec just simply remembered that he was on this road trip, like driving from point A to point B, and it just felt like he was driving forever. He just mentioned that the trip felt longer than 3 hours. He just felt like he was just driving and driving and driving. That's what his brain was thinking, that it was just like a really long road trip. And but it still wouldn't explain the time gap. Like a long road trip would be like 3 hours, 4 hours, like it just felt like it was going on for days. In his mind, that's what he remembers before he arrived there, is that he was just driving forever, for longer than he expected, but not in a very crazy, unusual way. But he just felt like he was just driving. So he just simply remembered having a long road trip until he started to get headaches. And then after he started getting headaches, he started having not very good sleep. He had he couldn't get a full night's sleep. His sleep kept on getting interrupted one way or another. His sleep was constantly interrupted. Oh, before we continue, can you guys hear Jester and Birdie just fine? I just want to know that their audio is loud enough for you guys to hear, and I don't want to talk over them, so I want my voice to be lowered if needed and their voices brought up. So if you guys wouldn't mind giving me feedback, if you can hear them just fine in the chat, I'd really appreciate it, because I really don't know. It's hard for me to tell until after I'm recording, and then I have to edit because of the audio levels. So hopefully you guys can hear us just fine. Birdie, give him a 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Jester, give him a 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
All right, let me see. I'm not getting a response. I'm just making sure that we can hear this. Okay. Well, I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Okay. So he simply remembered a long road trip. And then he started getting headaches. There we go. That's where we're at. So he started getting headaches, and then his sleep kept on being uninterrupted. And then he slowly started to get random things in his brain. And so so when he couldn't take it anymore, he tried to do regression hypnosis. I don't know if you guys have heard of regression hypnosis. Okay, so he actually went somewhere and had regression hypnosis to figure out what exactly is wrong, because he felt like something was off and his sleep was there. And so he went to a professional therapist, and while he was in these hypnotic states, is when he started telling his story of what happened to him in the 10 days that he went missing. So he went under this hypnosis of multiple times, and he went under this hypnosis and in this appointment for several months. And while under the hypnosis is when he started sharing the details of his encounter. So what he felt like when he was taken. He started to remember what he felt like when he was taken. He started to remember the creatures that he met and where he lived and what message he learned from these creatures that abducted him. All right, so here's the abduction. Alec did not describe an accident. He did not describe a stroke. He did not describe meeting a stranger on the road. He just mentioned that his body seemed to suddenly seize up and get paralyzed, like he couldn't move any part of his body. So he just felt like he couldn't move and he was just paralyzed. And then after that, his body started to feel like it was dissolving, like it was just dissolving, and all that was left is his consciousness. And it's a sensation of being weightless and losing the physical sensations, but still retaining full awareness. And it wasn't at all like fainting or sleeping. It was more like his physical existence started to dissolve away. And it literally felt like the sensation of losing weight and like I said, physical sensation. So everything is just like, it was just a consciousness. His consciousness was alert, was awake, but he felt like everything else is disconnected to him. So when he started to come to, he found himself in a vast space with no walls. And there were no lights, there were no lamps, there was no sunlight, there was no windows in this particular space that he was in. And there is a source of light, but it was a very strange. It's not like our fluorescent light. It's not like sunlight. It was a source of light,
Mm-hmm.
but it was strange, you know. And so, not long after he started to come to, he started to notice these humanoid like figures start to approach him. There was at least I think there was like at least 3 of them or 6 of them in the room, but he said that there was these humanoid like creatures that were like the figures that started walking towards him. Okay, so within the space, these humanoid creatures started to approach him, but the only difference between them is that they had larger heads and their faces were broader and their eyes were narrow and deep set. Their skin was
Mm-hmm.
smooth, but they had no nose or ears. So they didn't have nose, they didn't have ears. They had, a broader face, bigger head, specific eyes, but they don't have they didn't have a nose or ears. He didn't see them as monsters or angels. He just saw them as unfamiliar to him. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing that the therapist found unique about about what he was telling them while he was under hypnosis, um uh that the way he was the way he described these creatures communicated with him. So it's weird because they didn't have verbal language. Everything was exchanged where he just heard, like he knew what they were saying inside of his head, and he was able to reply to them. So it was like a conscious, like their conscience were together and just having a conversation inside his head. So there's no verbal, it was literally just messages going inside his head directly. So oh shit.
Okay, telepathy, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess they didn't call it telepathy back then. So the messages just appeared in his mind, and the first being who encountered him introduced himself in the way of just speaking inside his head. And he said that he was the being that was the designated protector of that region that they were in. So he was like, so that's why his first contact is, because he's the protector of their wherever they're at, right? So he's the protector, and he's the protector of the region, and he said that you are welcome here. If there is anything you need to make the stay more comfortable, all you have to do is ask. And they were also very clear with him that he was free to leave at any point if he wishes so, and no one wanted to keep him against his will. So their first communication is like, hey, I'm the protector, we're here and we welcome you, we want you to stay, but if you don't want to stay, you don't have to stay. So pretty much they're just like, we're just making contact, trying to communicate, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he described this, and then the other thing that the therapist found very interesting is how he described the place that they lived in. So the way he described it, from what I've read on different articles and different things, is that every time he describes a city, there is no it's very very it's consistent. There's no breaking down the story. Usually when people lie, it starts to crumble little by little as you tell it. But his story has stayed consistent, even still to this day. He's actually still alive to this day, and he just lives with this knowledge. And he just lives with, he goes on interviews, he goes on podcasts, he goes on different shows. He even wrote a book, so he's still, very much here. Yeah, so it's just something that it's an experience that he had. So he actually, while he was under, described the city that these creatures lived in. He described them with great detail. he actually even drew this place numerous times without changing. Keep in mind, this person does not have any studying or anything with architecture. He has no education with art. He has no education with genetics. He has no education on science. He was someone that was a car salesman. So, he doesn't, it's not something that he has knowledge on. That's not something that he has a lot of knowledge on. And the fact that he's able to draw this is also very strange because it's not something that he has ever been able to do before. All right. So he described the city that these creatures lived in. And he, like I said, he drew it a number of times. So he said that the city stretched along a coastline. Its scale exceeded any urban environment he could think of on Earth. He said that the horizon had no clear boundary. The structures just continued without limit. So, like, he could not see where it began. He could not see where it ended. It was just vast. And it just went on and on and on. The structures continued without limit. And then he also mentioned that the structures were, instead of being like square, rectangular buildings, he described that the structures were more more rounded and lower, and they had smoother surfaces. So instead of being like high, crazy buildings, they were like more round, more organic looking is the best way I can describe it. Like, it's more organic than a giant building in the middle of the desert. It's like they built their structure to kind of match the environment, I guess. You know what I mean? So, so everything was rounded. They had smooth surfaces. And then the light that came from within these structures wasn't a light that was given by a sun, and the soft glow just seemed to. It was just a soft glow, and it was just like hold on, sorry. The light came from within these structures, and it wasn't light from a sun. They didn't have sun where he was at, where they live. They don't have a sun. There's no sun where they live. And so it was actually the light that he described was a softer light. It wasn't like a sharp, hard light. It's just a soft, kind of like a glowy look to it. More like, I wouldn't say bioluminescence, but maybe kind of like bioluminescence, a little brighter. And so he said that the light source came from these pyramid-like structures. And so they had these pyramids created in between like these round buildings. They had these pyramids created, but these pyramids looked like they were created from different crystals. Like, it's a pyramid of crystals. Like, it was transparent, like very much like a quartz crystal kind of thing, And it was just a pyramid made out of these crystals. I think quartz would be the closest physical thing that I can explain. And it was it was dispersed between these structures. And so on top of these pyramids, hold on, from the apex of each pyramid, there was something like they had spheres going up. So they had like a spiral thing and then a sphere, and then they had like a ball, like a round sphere out there, and that's where the light source comes from. And so on top of each of the pyramids rose a tall spiral tower, and on top of them was a large luminous sphere, and the spheres were emitting an energy he could feel but could not express. Inside these structures, there were no sharp edges. It was all smooth and curved, and there were no clear edges inside these buildings. There were no windows, no ceiling structures. How else did he describe it? But it was always lit. Despite not having a window, this was always lit with that same glow that he describes from the top of these pyramids. He was asked in multiple sessions while under hypnosis about this city, and his description of this city was always consistent. And he said that the structures did not look built, but rather grown. Like I said, it was very organic. It didn't look like it was man-made. It was, like I said, it was very organic. So it kind of like went with environment. And he also mentioned that there was all a constant, almost inaudible sound, like a low frequency hum. Even though it was nearly inaudible, his body could still feel it. So it's like a sound slash vibration, some kind of vibration that was always there. It's like a hum, a light hum, a light vibration that just existed there. I don't know what level it is, but it's just a constant vibration, or like a constant. I guess it would be like a constant, like, hum would be the word. And this, oh my gosh, sorry, move my notes. Like it was like a low frequency hum, and even though it was nearly inaudible, his body could feel it. He also felt like the structures and architecture themselves were trying to communicate with him, like where he was at and where they lived, that itself was also alive. You know what I mean? Kind of like we think of, for some of us, we believe that Gaia, who is Mother Earth, is alive, right? So some of us have that, like, it's kind of like that, where we know that Gaia exists and we believe in Gaia. Even though we can't see her, we know that the world is alive, you know? So he felt like these buildings were trying to communicate with him like they're alive as well. He also mentioned that the environment seemed to respond to his presence. When he needed to rest, a surface would appear for him so he can be able to rest on it. And when he wanted to move, pathways would open, and there was no switches in the room, there were no controls in the room. It just responded to him based on what his thoughts are and what he needed. It just responded to him. Hello, Binky. Welcome in. Thank you for the lurk, Pop Culture. We're happy to have you. So that's the city that shouldn't exist. What do you guys think of his description of the city so far?
Sounds very interesting.
Like,
Yeah, it's
like I said, this was in 1989, and this is what he was telling them under hypnosis, and he has no reason for any of this knowledge to exist in his consciousness. You know?
Like, I'm finding it very interesting from like a psychological perspective. I'm not saying that he didn't get abducted. Like, the timelines are odd and add up in a different way. But like, at the same time, I do know a thing or two about hypnosis, and sometimes your your subconscious just makes shit up, and you have no clue what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
And so part of me is just like, this could be a very elaborate fever dream that he went through. But the other part of me is just like,
But see, it wasn't a fever
this
dream.
could have
It wasn't
happened.
a fever dream because he went under hypnosis. I think he was like he would see that therapist, and he went to that therapist for about 2 years. And he went under hypnosis for about 2 years to talk about what he went through and what was his experience there. So it's not like it was just like a one-time thing. It's a consistent thing that kept on popping up under hypnosis in his therapy sessions for about 2 years. Maybe more. I don't know, but I thought it was 2 years. Okay. So while staying in this place, Alec ends up being introduced to a being who called herself Xena. Not Xena, Xena, but Zena. But Xena the Warrior Princess is also awesome. So Xena was actually going to be his main contact during his entire experience, and what she told him aligned in very unsettling ways with a lot of the unresolved questions in modern science today. Xena did not describe humans as a result of a random evolution, but rather a project, a sequence of different versions designed and tested and refined over hundreds of thousands of years. According to Xena, she mentioned that the Cro-Magnon was actually not a result of evolution, but was an intentional prototype that they placed on Earth, a biological vessel that would carry a second nature. They were created to form a conscious capable of persisting, learning, retaining memory across generations. The Homo sapiens were the next refined versions, and they were not a result of a mutation or evolution, but the result of a guided process. So they sent the Cro-Magnons here first, and that was their first one. And then they learned from them and then created Homo sapiens as their next model for, or the next, I guess, I don't like saying model, but their next species or their next, the next evolution of the project that they're working on. And so they were given second nature. The Homo sapiens were the next refined versions. They were not a result of a mutation or evolution, but like I said, they guided it. The new versions of the project were actually given larger brains. It was why scientists still to this day have a hard time understanding the gap in their evolution theory, because our brains from Cro-Magnon to Homo sapien got 3 times larger in a very short period of time in evolution standards. You know what I mean? In a very, even though it was like several, years, it's still very short for evolution. For like in the process of evolution, it's a very short period that our brains grew 3 times larger from Cro-Magnon to Homo sapien.
Mm-hmm.
And they got their brains were 3 times larger, and like I said, their brains got big for a very short evolutionary time. And she said that humans were actually supposed to be stronger, they were supposed to live longer, and they actually were supposed to possess abilities that were closer to what we humans describe as divine or super or meta, abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So, what exactly happened to us, and how did we lose our abilities? How did we shorten our lifespan? How did we become who we are now, right? How did we get so different from what they planned us to be? So, Xena then told Alec that the DNA of modern humans today was actually not the original versions that they created. The modern day humans are restricted. She claimed that at one point of Earth's distant past, another species not related to them recognized the potential of humanity and viewed it as a threat. So they intervened in a genetic way. They intervened in a genetic level. They weakened our abilities. So for the, do you guys, does anyone know what Cro-Magnons are? Do I need to explain them? I forgot to ask.
I know what they are.
Okay, we're good then. For those that don't know, Cro-Magnons were some of the first anatomically modern humans to live in Europe, dating between 40,000 to 10,000 years ago during the last ice age. And they were discovered in France in 1868, and they were skilled hunters, gatherers, made complex tools, and created magnificent cave art. So that was what Cro-Magnons are, for those that don't know what Cro-Magnons are. All right, so so apparently this other species of alien to us came on Earth and was all like, you guys are too dangerous. You guys are heading into a dangerous direction. So they altered our genetics and altered our actual DNA, and they removed our abilities that we had. That's why our lives are shortened. So they modified our genetics. All right. So why is his story so interesting, and why do some people say it's a threat to science and religion? So one thing about modern day scientists is that they can't ignore the coincidences of this encounter specifically. This encounter raised a lot of questions in relation to mythology. There are patterns across ancient civilizations that seem to overlap. from Native America, Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Mayans, Hindu, and so much more. All these ancient civilizations speak of these sky beings who helped us learn writing, agriculture, astronomy, beings like the Anunnaki, the Neteru, the Nephilim, the Titans, the Anusinum, which are the ant people in Hopi, or Hopi, it's Hopi, and etc. I mean, what if Jesus himself was actually an alien? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. There's a lot of stories of these beings coming down to Earth and appearing people. And if you think about how in the past, how they described things like a burning bush or fire, their language was limited to what they knew back then. So for them, they probably say, oh, a burning, like this thing landed and there's fire everywhere, but really it was just lights, because they didn't have that technology back then. Their brain calculated to fire. So there's a lot of things in the past that talk about like these ancient beings that come down, and they talk about there's like fire upon landing and they're large and all that stuff. So it's a consistent thing throughout different ancient civilizations. And so how would religions react to the idea that Jesus was possibly an alien? Like, if everything Alec is saying is true, and the religious base on a lot of religions is that Jesus Christ was a human, like was a god sent to earth, blah, blah, blah. Like, how would that change their way of thinking, right? So it was like this concept was dangerous to religion, but it's also kind of dangerous to science, because there's certain things that science still haven't been able to explain about the evolution theory, and there's still so many things that they haven't discovered or learned or figured out, right? And so the reason it's a threat to science and religion is because it could change people's perspective on what exactly the Bible is, or what exactly their religion is about, and what, it's just a lot of things that will be very confusing for some. For some, it'd be like, yeah, that makes more sense. There's also a recurring theme in religious texts of the cultures of the lost golden age. There was a point that humans had a golden age, and humans were stronger. They did live longer, and they also had some abilities that are closer to the divine. And then the golden age just stopped, and all of that went away, right? So it's also a coincidence that our change in our DNA, his story about how our DNA was altered, causes a lot of modern day geneticists to not be able to actually ignore it. Because the fact is that we have a phenomenon called, or known as, junk DNA. More than 90% of our genetic material is still unknown and unknown and not understood. It also caused them to question that some of the sequences of our junk DNA show signs of once being active, but then it just seemed like it was turned off. So we have a lot of junk DNA, a lot of parts in our DNA that they're like, what is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of this? And why were they active at one point and not anymore? So that's another thing about the alteration of our genetics, is because in our genome, it still shows some things that were activated once and no longer activated, and we don't know what those are. So Alec's account, which was recorded during therapy sessions between 1989 and 1990, offers possible answers, but his account cannot be seen as proof. It's just like some people will just say it's all just a coincidence, right? Okay, so in the beginning of this encounter, he truly thought that he actually died, but realized that he was actually being taken because these creatures had wanted to inform us of what we had before, who we were before, to try and like get us to hopefully reconnect in some way.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. So
the like I don't know if you guys have ever seen there's this YouTuber I follow. They do a bunch of like tarot readings on like supernatural stuff here and there and other things. Their name is Aphrodite. Uh and I'm like and they like talking about like they've done like tarot readings on like the Nephilims, the Anunnakis and all
Giants.
that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was just like, I wonder if they know about them because like they also like talked about stuff like that, and they're like, oh, like I get a download that like this and that was kind of like a pet project of,
Yeah.
and so I think that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I think so too.
Um,
I enjoy those shows. I enjoy stuff like that, so I really like it. While he does interviews, he always wanted to clearly state that he had never thought of aliens before, and then he wasn't under the influence of any drugs or alcohol during this encounter. He wasn't someone that believed in aliens before. He was not a believer. He was just like, okay, but clearly he had experience, but he wasn't a believer prior to this, so he'd never talked about aliens with his friends before, nothing like that. It was just not something he ever thought of. It wasn't something that interested him. So, we're talking about the attempt to silence him. All right.
Oh.
I know. When Alec decided to start sharing his story publicly within like the UFO research communities, so he started going to like their conventions, and he would talk about his experience, and he expected people to be skeptical of him, to call him a fake fraud, to be labeled as someone who's crazy, but he actually never expected what happened to him. Like, of all the things he expected, what happened to him is not at all what he thought would happen. The more he went out and talked about his stories, the more Alec started to feel like he was being watched. He felt like he was being watched all the time. He always felt like there was someone, a presence constantly watching him. He would notice that his mail would arrive later than usual, and it would appear that some of his mail was being tampered with, like opened and resealed. He also mentioned that when he would be on the phone, he would hear different clicks, different noises that kind of sounded like someone was listening to his conversations. He also started noticing some faces, like the same faces appearing everywhere he went. But these faces aren't people that lived in his area. It's not faces that he's seen before. These are new faces. And for some reason, like if they just moved into the city, he was seeing them everywhere in the city. You know what I mean? Same faces everywhere in the city. Everywhere he went, so like a familiar face would be there. And he also noticed that there would be cars parked near his his house for a prolonged period, for like 2 or 3 days. There would be random cars not too far from his home, and it just stays there for 2 days, and then it would leave, and then it would come back, etc. So just a little background on Alec. He actually used to sell cars until the stock market collapsed in 1987. So one day he was randomly approached by a guy who went by the name Jeff Wright. Jeff Wright offered him a business opportunity. He mentioned that he was looking for someone to help sell his imported Japanese vehicles, and the deal is that he sells them for lower prices because it was a surplus. The cars that he was selling was surplus inventory from different dealerships. So he had, like, because Alec had history in selling cars, and this guy like offered a job that's very much in his career, and he was desperate for money, he decided to accept this opportunity. He was arrested after, like, while he was selling it. He was randomly, like, he got arrested, and he's just like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I arrested? Right? What is my crime? And it turns out that 6 of the vehicles that he sold were reportedly stolen.
And
Yeah, because
Wow.
these vehicles that he was selling were stolen vehicles, he was actually charged with a criminal offense. Not Jeff Wright, but he is the one that is being charged with criminal offenses. For some reason, Jeff Wright was not in any trouble, did not even nothing. It was just all on him. So 6 of his vehicles that he sold were reportedly stolen. So he was charged with a criminal offense. And from what he learned, these cases usually take between 6 to 8 months to get resolved. But for some reason, for Alec, it took 2 years. He appeared in court 20 times. All of his assets were seized. And during this time, while everything was being seized, he was approached by representatives from an unnamed government agency. The Men in Black.
Did the Men in Black?
The Men in Black. They didn't say the Men in Black, but from the descriptions, I'm sure it's the Men in Black. Okay. They propose that if Alec would cooperate with them and provide them all of the details of his encounter, give him all of his notes of this encounter, and agree to never speak about this in public ever again, there would be a more positive outcome on his case. But if he refused, the case would continue to remain open. And so, because Alec refused to be silenced with his story, this took him 2 years to get resolved. 2 years to get resolved. So,
Dang.
when he was finally done with that, he decided to write a book called Co-Evolution. And the book did not make him a lot of money. It wasn't like a big time top seller. It did not blow up. It's just a book that exists there, and it's a book that has become quite popular in the UFO community. So, Alec is still alive to this day. He has never retracted any of his statements. Even to this day, whenever he would do interviews and stuff like that, his stories never change, and he just lives with this knowledge. He talks about it in the shows, interviews, and some people have even written books about his encounter. And this specific case is known as the abduction. The 10-day abduction is what a common thing. If you guys wanted to look at the man that was abducted for 10 days, it would pop up his story. It would pop up his books and all that stuff. So he wrote Co-Evolution, the true story of a man taking for 10 days, which was written by Alec Newald. But then there's also another book called The Mysterious Alien Abduction Story of Alec Newald. And this was written by Joshua Peter. So that's what I have for Alec Newald's encounter. What did you guys think?
I think it's interesting. Of course, the feds are going to be the feds. There's nothing changing that. But like, it's a very interesting story. Very interesting encounters.
Yeah.
Sounds very interesting, but it's also one of those things that as somebody who I have a major in psychology, so it brings me to the topic of like, since he did a lot of these things, talking about what happened and the recollections of it through under hypnosis, so that they can have like that topic to talk about. My entire brain is just like, what if there's also the possibility that this was something that was suggested to him under hypnosis to try to like recollect that. But of course, I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Oh yeah. We have skeptics. We don't like. I believe the story, but some people don't, which is fine. But I'm a little crazy. It's fine. It's fine to be crazy, guys.
Me personally, I like to believe that there's probably more out there than we are, because I'm like, there's a whole galaxy, and I'm like, there's an impossibility and improbability that we are the only intelligent creatures. There's actually like there's this theory out there that says that because of our sun is kind
Mhm.
of like a protective layer that keeps our like little galaxy in its own little bubble from like other like aliens or extraterrestrials to coming towards us, because they might not be able to survive uh, because of our sun.
Yeah.
There's also the theory out there that there's aliens in our waters because there's
We haven't
out
explored
of
all
all
of
the
it.
sea life. Yeah, we haven't explored all of it, and also because like um octopus have
Oh, I
like
love them so much.
the least amount of DNA that correlates to ours compared to like other sea life or other living creatures in the earth. So I don't
Mhm.
know. Maybe I'm just a little cuckoo.
Yeah, for me, this is how I've always I've believed aliens, because for me, I'm all like, it is really arrogant for us to believe that in this vast galaxy, we were the only ones that came to exist in this massive galaxy of different potential, different things. I feel like it's really arrogant for us to think that we're the only ones that exist, because thinking about it logically, like, it's the galaxy is never ending. This is a possibility that could happen in different places, so, and in different ways. And part of me also believes that we weren't supposed to be in this planet. I believe that this planet was supposed to be for the crustaceans, for the octopus. I truly believe that this planet was meant for octopus, not for humans or anything like that. So I truly believe that we came in here and decided to make this our home. And that's why we have to put on sunscreen, because the sun's burning our skin. That's why we have to, like, we can't survive out by ourselves without shelter, etc. We're not built to survive in this environment without a lot of help. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just, that's the way I see it. Every time people doubt that aliens exist, I'm just like, there's so much out there that we still don't know. And there's a common joke that people say is NASA actually originally used to explore the ocean. And after a specific point, they decided not to explore the ocean anymore, and then they decided to go in space and figure out a way to get out of the planet. You know what I mean? So, and then there's this conversation that was brought up by that one person that spoke out about how there's like a community somewhere in the ocean of these beings that live, like, of these beings that live there. And some people believe that it's deep, deep, deep under the water. I'm also a firm believer that Atlanteans might still exist. Atlanteans might still exist. I also believe that Lemurians could still exist. So there's a lot that we don't know out there. So that's why for me, I'm just like, it must be nice to just think, no, we're the only ones here. But for me, there's just so much out there. But I'm more excited to know that there's so much out there, because that means there's so much more to learn, and there's so much more to like learn from. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I really love this encounter, and I really love that. And the thing with this is, you mentioned that like he could have been fed things. This was in 1989, and the way he described everything has never existed in any book of fiction, any films, or anything like that. Nothing like what he described existed prior to this. From what I could, yeah, a lot of the things was so out there and so different that it's not something that could have come from someone else. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's Alec Newald. Um, what'd you think, Birdie? Did you like it? Did you guys like it?
I did enjoy it, yes.
Hopefully, I
I
gave
think
you
it was
guys.
very interesting.
Oh yeah, I like I
Me,
said.
have you guys ever heard about the fact that like not the fact, but there's like a theory out there that says that that planet Earth has been just one of the many experiments out there is for like extraterrestrials or like aliens or whatever you want to call them, that we're just like an assembly of like Okay, let's put it like a bunch of like all these different species in one planet and see what happens. And there's like a small theory out there that says like all of our planets from the galaxy has just been like the same experiment trying to happen over and over again, but different outcomes.
Dina described us as a different species, like a different series from an experiment that they were doing. So, there's also that. Man. But I like when I heard this story before, it just made so much sense to me. And a lot of it makes sense to me that I'm like, I can find this as believable. And then I can understand why they would try and silence him. If his story was all bullshit, why did they try so hard to silence him? Why did they spy on him? Why did they offer to offer this to silence him? What? If what he was saying was truly bullshit, why were they so eager to silence him? That's another thing to think about. Is if they're trying to silence you, there's something you're saying that they don't want the world to know.
I mean, yeah. Plus, it's just the feds being feds. Anytime federal agents of any country get involved, it's either a cover-up or it is a way for them to, try to control a narrative of some sort.
Yeah.
It never works out well for the people involved.
All right, so let's go ahead and take our first break today. We're going to take our first break. We're going to go refresh our waters. And then after that, we get to hear from the amazing Jester, who is going to tell us her topic. So I'm excited to see you guys then. Give us about 3 minutes. We will be refreshing. We're going to run a quick ad here. And we'll see you guys really, really soon. So be good. Take care. We'll be back. We'll stay thick.
And you stay spooky.